Okay, I do call the school board meeting to session dated December 7th, 2022. And where would you like me to go next? Do you want me to start? Okay, and you're going to do the oath to office, okay? Let me turn this off and then you'll have to wear your portable one for them to hear.
All right, so can we have you four stand up? Okay. Raise your right hand. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
You solemnly swear that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States.
Of this and this Constitution of the State of Wyoming.
And the Constitution of the State of Wyoming.
That I have not knowingly violated any law related to my election or appointment.
That I have not knowingly violated any law related to my election or appointment.
Or caused it to be done by others.
or caused it to be done by others.
And that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
And that I will discharge my duties of my office with fidelity.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Now you want to go right into the review process? Yes. At this point, Bob, if you would come up. Get to me first. And then you can cue that mic accordingly, and I will make sure this one is turned off. And you may proceed.
Screen's good? Screen's good. Cool. Here we are again.
Welcome. And I guess to start off with, why would you want to be a trustee for this?
Well, since my kids started school, I mean, I was a school teacher. I've always had an interest in education. So when my kids started, anything I could do for the school, I did do, whether it was volunteering or trying to help out or anything. And the more they went through school, the more I saw a need for people who actually cared and wanted to be a part of it. So I tried to do everything I could to be a part of whatever I could help out with. And I think as a school board member, it's an awesome and kind of terrifying responsibility to try to help any way you can. And it's something that I definitely think needs to be taken serious. And the main reason I'm here tonight is because my phone blew up for 2 days after the election. Blew up. I spent a lot of time off the side of the road answering questions and phone calls and text messages, and they all had the same thing. Do not give up. Don't quit. You have to run again. You lost. Suck it up. Keep going. It was all so positive. When Ronnie resigned, those phone calls and texts doubled. So I felt like at least now I owe it to whoever called, texted, supported, reached out. Those are my constituents. Whether I won or not, I owe it to them to at least try. And that's why I'm here, to try, not just for them, but for everyone in the district. That's why I've always tried to help the kids, the teachers, and the parents. They all deserve the very best that we can do for them. So that's why I'm here. Shoshone. 2.
So Paul, where did you teach at?
Shoshone.
No, yours is still on.
I think his is gonna stay on,
Good.
right?
Okay.
How many years, Paul?
2 years, Sean.
Very good.
I don't know. You got green and red, so I don't know.
I'm close enough. I could probably throw you this one and not break anything.
Paul, do you see an election with a single seat? Do you think there would have been different results if it was just a single seat election?
I don't know. It's hard to imagine what would happen because let's face it, there was 11 candidates for 4 spots. I don't know if there was just a single seat election, how it would turn out. I mean, we can all look into our crystal balls and we can all imagine what would. I honestly don't know. And I just wish that we had a way to know, because then it would take a lot of stress and pressure off everybody else. Put it back on the people. So I don't know. I really wish I had a better answer for you, but I just can't say with any degree of certainty.
All right, Paul, what characteristics do you see in yourself that would make a good school board member?
Ooh. Well, I would like to think I have a good sense of humor, but that's up for discussion and debate. I don't know. But like I said, I've always said I try to be honest, fair, and transparent in everything I do. And that doesn't matter if I'm dealing with a school board, if I'm dealing with somebody in my work and business, personal, I absolutely live by that code. And I'm one of those guys that if I make a mistake, I own it. I don't ever try to pass it off. I don't ever try to deflect. If I have made a mistake, I will own it and try to learn from it. And I ask everybody does the same. I mean, I know I'm opinionated, and it doesn't matter if I'm a school board member or a member of the public. I'm going to tell you what I think. I always try to do it in a respectful manner because steel sharpens steel. I don't care if we're best friends or if we're on opposite sides of a problem. If we can talk about something and actually listen to each other, that's how we get to solutions. So that's what I would try to bring to the board. I mean, I have a wide background of friends that from time to time, when something comes up, I will call them and ask their opinion because I do want to know what the other side of an equation feels like or thinks, or what am I seeing wrong? Is there something that I'm missing? I'm always open to criticism or trying to see something from somebody else's perspective. I know I'm not the smartest guy in the room, and I know that I make mistakes. So if I make one or you can prove me wrong, please do. I'll be your best friend and your greatest ally. Because once I realize where I've made my mistake, I can help educate others in bringing them to the right side of things. So.
Paul, if you were in the position as a new board member, what would be one of the goals that you would like to see happen in the next year for the school district?
The biggest problem I see, this is why I'm focusing on this with this question. It's throughout the school. It's every person I've talked to is communication. And this kind of goes back to what I just said in the last answer. If we can't talk to each other, if we don't know what's going on, it's really hard to come to a consensus or understanding. So if you as board members can communicate with each other and then send that down the chain of command to Brad to the principals, to the teacher, you know what I mean? Follow the stair step down. The communication is key. And we have to make sure we keep parents involved in that. I mean, with cell phones and emails, things shouldn't be falling through the cracks like they are right now. Same thing with our faculty and staff. There's no reason why we shouldn't have better communication as to what's going on and what direction we're going in. I mean, I get it. We have the same problems in the company I work for. We hammer and hammer and hammer. We have to communicate. And the funny thing is, once you get everybody on board with communicating, it becomes so much easier that it's not an issue any longer. And once you get that hammered out and that in place, everything else does kind of fold into itself and comes along. So communication is where I would like to focus on this if I am fortunate enough in a year. It might take longer, but that would be a good place to start.
Oh, there we go. So Paul, when, obviously, when the board as a whole agrees, it's pretty gravy, but when we disagree with issues, how do you work that? How do you handle or would handle any disagreement that you may have with the board members?
Honest, fair, and transparent. I mean, one of the hardest conversations I've ever had is with my best friend, and we were on completely different sides of a problem. And that is a terrifying thing for me because I don't have many real close personal friends. But you have to just look them in the eye and say, here's where I'm at. Tell me where you're at. And at the end of the day, hopefully everybody can be adult enough to say, I see your point, or I don't see your point. Let's either talk about it further or just agree to disagree. So if I'm the Lone Ranger, I'll just say I'm the Lone Ranger. I'm not seeing it the way it is. If it's a nail biter and it's 4-4 and I'm the tiebreaker, I will talk to every single person, or at least make sure that it's available to talk if they want to see what the correct solution is. Because once again, I don't have all the answers. I don't have that kind of an ego to think I'm the smartest guy in the room, or I can find a solution nobody else can. But if you're honest and fair with each other and transparent to where there's not a hidden agenda, I don't think there's anything that we can't get through, period.
One more, Paul. So and I just want your thoughts on this. When a board makes a decision, and let's say you don't agree with that decision, but the final vote is opposite of what you your point of view. Would you agree or disagree that is the vote of the board, though? That is the final and we move on? Or is that something that we try to?
If the board votes, that's it. Now, if we have new information or something else comes along, then you can revisit it. Or if it's something that you think is important, if something changes, revisit it. But once a decision's made, that's why we vote. Once it's made, it's made. I don't have to be happy about it if I'm the one that loses, but I mean, they say that losing builds character. That's why I'm a character. I've lost and been beat up quite a bit. It's not a new hat for me. But at the end of the day, it's how you deal with that defeat that's more important to me. I'm never going to lie to you about it. If you ask me, are you mad? I'll probably say, oh yeah, I'm pretty upset. But you know what? I'm not going to hold it against you if you voted against me. You have to do what you have to do. And that's what I've told everybody from the word go. You have to vote your conscience on everything you do, period. Let the chips fall where they will. Because at the end of the day, the only one looking back in that mirror is you. Well, that's why I sleep pretty good at night. If I make a mistake, well, I know that I'm a better man for it. And I usually can hold my head up and say I did everything the way it should have been done. And if we disagree, well, we disagree. And I'm not going to waste another minute of your time or my time trying to argue a point that I know I'm not going to win. I have too much respect for you as an individual to keep hammering, and I hope you could treat me the same. I did have some citizens that circulated I guess you would call it a letter of support, very short and sweet, but they did take the time to print it and sign it, send it to me. I'll circulate these around if you'd like, or whatever you would like me to do with them, but this is why I'm here. They didn't have to do that. They certainly didn't have to spend the postage, but they did. So, thank you.
You want to stay on time? You want to go ahead of time? Marcia's here. Marcia's next.
I guess I didn't turn it on last time, so I'll do it this time. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Paul. Why are you running for school board trustee?
So it's green right now. Is it on? No. Hello. Yep. Well, I said I would, in August, I signed up and said I was going to run. And so I think that's why I'm here today, is I said I would do it then. And so I feel like I need to be consistent. I have kids, grandkids. I've had a lot of phone calls after the election. And then when we heard of Ron's resignation, I had quite a few phone calls from local people in the area wanting me to run and making sure I signed up. And I just feel like I still have a lot more to do and to just to be here and help.
I'm gonna ask the same question again too. If it was a single election, do you think the results would be the same or different?
I don't know, but I'm going to say probably the results would probably be close to that. I think they would be.
What characteristics do you feel you have that make a good school board member?
I do have quite an extensive background. I can hit the ground running since I've been here 8 years. I think it takes quite a bit of, there's quite a bit of learning to going along with being a board member. I'm honest. I'll listen. I'm willing to learn. That's consistent. I think that's pretty good.
Marcia, if there's one thing that you'd really like to see changed or worked on over the next year, what would that be for the district?
You know, I liked Paul's answer of communication, but I also think I hate to say this, as a board, we came together well, but I think there's always room for more improvement. And I think that helps too. The communication's important, but working as a board is really important, and knowing how the board operates and the governance and all that, I think is important. Mm. You know, I'm nervous then. Oh, I don't know. I had it all wrote out today, but now I don't. Not wrote out, but thought out, but now it's just gone. I drive the speed limit. I don't. I don't know. Okay, sorry.
Okay, the next interviewee is Tyler Mills. Oh, there's Tyler right there.
Hello.
Hi, Tyler.
Hi, John.
I'll ask the same one. Why would you like to be a school board member?
Well, it started in probably about May of this year. Seeing all the struggles that Ashlyn was having, my daughter, just made me want to do more for the district itself. A lot of her friends come from broken homes, and I feel that they were getting the best education that they could, but there was still more that the district could do. And I feel that I would like to do that for not only my daughter, but the other students within the district.
I'm going to follow up on that because you led into it, but how would you do something different for the district? I mean, what would you propose? And I think that's one of the things that
I'm assuming Dana would ask me somewhat the same question on what my goal was in the first year if I was to be appointed into this position. Honestly, it's teacher retention. That would be the one thing I would work on mostly my first year if appointed, because we all know the struggles we're having in our math department in the high school, even retaining some of our teachers down in the and our paras down in the grade school, and that we need to focus on teacher retention, because without teachers, our students aren't getting the best of what this district can offer. Once again, what characteristics do you feel you possess to be a good school board member? Well, have an aptitude for learning. I know, being a new board member, there's a lot of things that I do not know. And I would definitely be willing to take the time and put forth the time and energy to learn everything I could to know about being a proper and good school board member for the district. I'm very easy to talk to. I'm honest with everything I do. I have the courage to stand up for what I believe in. So even if it's something on a split decision that we wouldn't agree on as a board, I would have the courage to, stand up for what I believe in. But I also have the acceptance to, take in all the information and make an informed decision, whether I'm on the wrong side of the battle in that. But yeah.
Thank you.
I know I give 110% no matter what I do, whether it's work, after school activities with my daughter, and I am a single father, so it does she does take a lot of my time, but this is one of those things that I feel that would help her and others in the long run. Not at this time. Thank you very much.
his wasn't posted in, so.
So then we can. I would usually encourage people to try the treats, but I don't think I would try the treats. The treats aren't very good, so leave them alone. Let's take a 15-minute break and we'll come back at a quarter, well, a little more than 15. Let's come back at 5:45. That gives everyone a little time. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so we have our fourth interviewee, Stanley. And so Stanley, the board will go ahead and ask you a series of questions if you are ready.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Education for 2000. Just kidding.
Well, Stanley, I'll start off. Same question. I've asked the same question to the other three, so I'll ask it of you. Why do you want to become a school board member?
For several years now, I've been advocating for children in this country. Children of this country are under attack from all different entities, especially from the outside, like TikTok and all these other social media programs that are out there targeting our children. I was surprised to find that in our educational system, that's happening too. Our educational system should be a neutral place for our children. They should not know the gender of the sexual preference of a teacher. No child in this country has anything to feel guilty about as far as what happened 200 and something years ago. And that's what they're being told. In February of 2020, I stood up at Grazers and there was a meeting there and I spoke out against critical race theory in our schools for the first time. Subsequently, about a year ago, I did it again. Superintendent LaCroix was there and nobody was talking about the children. And I stood up in particular about the mask mandates. And I said, seeing nobody's speaking for the children, then let me take this opportunity and speak for them. And I asked, are we going to force our children to wear masks in school this year? And I was told no. And I also brought up critical race theory. I've done it numerous times. What's happening with this attack against our children, because there's a certain group of people that realized long ago that our most valuable asset and the most impressionable asset we have in this country are our children. And they're targeting them. They're demoralizing them. They're feminizing them. Look at the young youth in our country. So, and I'm gonna wrap it up, but in 3 separate times in my life, I've raised my right hand and pledged to follow the Constitution to protect those innocents. And I've done that. My pledge to do this did not end when I retired, when I resigned, when I got out of the military, or when I retired from the fire department. I hold that near and dear to me now. That's why I'm fighting. That's why I want to be on the school board, because our children are not getting the education that they need. They're getting marginalized in education designed to keep them marginalized. So when they go forth, they become a working ant for the government. Thank you. That's what I'm doing. Thanks.
Okay, I'll ask the same question I asked the other three. Also, what characteristics do you possess that makes you feel to be a good school board member?
Well, first, I was a child once. So my mother was a waitress. She raised 5 kids as a waitress. I know what it's like to be on the other side of fruition. Okay, I know what it's like to feel kind of on the outside looking in as a child. I know what it's like to feel a little less fortunate than other people. Why I feel that I'm qualified is a big part of my life between the military and the firefighting and as a firefighter and as a union president and as a president of the Firefighters Relief Association. I've learned certain skills. I've advocated for people less fortunate than myself, and I've been a winner in that advocation. I've showed up at people's house that I didn't know and put my life on the line above my own family. And I'll just give you a little example as union president. They wanted to make certain vaccines mandatory, HIV, hepatitis B. As union president, I fought that. I thought people had the right to choose. Once we won that, I got those vaccines. And actually, I got rabies vaccine too. Why I feel that I am going to be worthy of this is I am willing to put my personal discomfort above what I fight for. And what I fight for in the school is our students and their right to get out of the school. It's a basic knowledge of how to survive out there. Thank you. And I have mediation skills, arbitration skills. I filed arbitrations. I've negotiated municipal contracts. I've managed $250,000 budgets. I've been an instructor. I went to school, became an instructor on high-end vertical rescue, open ice rescue, water rescue. I became trained in that. I brought it back to my department and I trained my other firefighters. And I also was part of many boards. One of them was a rescue board, and we trained volunteer fire departments and municipalities, police and ambulance. I know how to work with people. Believe it or not, I'm a nice guy and I want to get along. But nothing will take the priority other than their students. Thank you.
Stanley, if you had one goal you'd like to accomplish as a member of this board in the next year, what would that be?
I just wanted to say thank you for giving me this opportunity. I messed up on that. One of my worst assets is self-promotion. It really bothers me. I was told a long time ago the things that we do for others should be remained between me and them. It's the biggest part of spirituality. If we do things for others that we don't, that other people don't need to know about. So again, could you give me that question? Because, sorry, Dana.
If you were appointed to this board seat, what is one goal that you would like to see accomplished in the next year or so?
The biggest goal, and I've been clear about this in the papers, press, and in the past forums, because you can hire 1,000 more teachers, you can increase the budget thousands more dollars. If you do not change the curriculum in these schools, nothing will change. Okay? That is the problem. That is the root cause of what's going on here. The curriculums in our schools that are being sold and being co-opted by grants. We take grants and then we're obligated. We have teacher association at the national level pushing these toxic curriculums down into these schools that are meant to marginalize. As Senator Tillis today, because they're talking about granting amnesty to 2 million DACA people, he said, these people, because our people in this country take the IT jobs. They're not educated enough to do it. They're not educated enough because they're not meant to be. So now that we're going to get 2 million illegals amnesty so that they can take the job that our students can't do. That's what he said, Senator Tillis. So that's the one thing I would do, because that's the one thing that needs to be done, is that curriculum. And all this gender ideology's got to go. Thank you.
So to follow up then, which of our curriculums in this district do you want to scrap and what would you replace them with?
You see on the board up there, it says social emotional health. Anything to do with social emotional learning, social emotional health, probably social services, social studies. The things that were being taught in sex education here, those curriculums, and particularly history, for some examples. You do teach social emotional learning here. I've said that numerous times and nobody's ever came to me and said I was wrong. So if I am wrong, you could tell me.
Stan or Stanley, how do you prefer? Either.
Stash. So.
So obviously, you know, you got different points of view on the board. When things come up for discussion and calls for votes, obviously when we all vote together, it's a simple thing, but when we disagree and the vote goes not your way, do you agree with the philosophy that once the vote is made, that's the vote of the board and that's it?
I believe the majority speaks. That doesn't mean if I don't disagree that I wouldn't still try to, in all permissible ways and all constructive ways, try to reinforce what I believe and still try to change things. But I would certainly respect and honor the decision of the majority of the board.
Anything else you want us to know?
You know, I've heard during the interviewing process, they'll say I don't have an agenda, not me, but them. Now, there's an agenda that I got when I walked through the door. I don't know anybody that runs for office that doesn't have a belief that they're running for. That's an agenda. So what I heard was, I have nothing that I believe in. I don't know how to, you know, I didn't understand that, because everybody that wants to do good, everything that runs for public office has an agenda that they're running. It confused me a little bit, so I'll say that. And I do want to thank you for allowing me to take part in this process today. And that's it. Thanks. Okay. Have a good night.
This time, that concludes. So at this time, that concludes the interview process. What are the wishes of the board as far as moving forward? I could make a motion to go into executive session if so need be. I just don't know exactly where the board would like to go next. Okay, so under Wyoming statute 16-4-405, two little i's, I would ask that the board be allowed to go into executive session.
I'll second.
It's been moved that we do that. So at this time, oh, please, yeah, vote. Any discussion? Maybe I should ask that first. Okay, no discussion going once, going twice. Okay, at this time, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? So at this time at 6:06, we will declare an executive session. For those of you on Zoom, I will go ahead. I might just, is it okay if I leave them on and you guys go to the back? Would that be okay? Because it would take me a while to get everybody wound up. So Zoom people, if you just be patient, after the board comes out of executive session, then we will move forward at the regular scheduled meeting, which is at 7 p.m. So we have two nominations. We have a nomination for Paul Bow and for Marcia Lambert. And there's no more nominations. So having the two, I would ask for those that are in favor of Paul Bow, signify by saying aye. Raise your hand. 5. Okay. And all those in favor of Marcia, raise your hand. Okay, so we have a 5-4 vote. 5-3. 5-3, and Paul Bow will be the next board member to finish the 2-year term vacated by Ronnie Mills. So Paul, if you would join us, and then I'm going to do, a board member would do the oath, please.
Green. Are we good? It's green. Okay. Okay. All right. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Paul Bow,
I, Paul Bow,
do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States
do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States,
and the Constitution of the State of Wyoming,
the Constitution of the State of Wyoming,
that I have not knowingly violated any law related to my election or appointment,
that I have not knowingly violated any law related to my election or appointment,
or caused it be done by others,
or caused it be done by others.
and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, so at this time, I believe that brings us up to the Pledge of Allegiance. And Joe, since this is your first board meeting and you served our country, if you would lead us in the pledge. Okay, so that brings us at this time, I believe I will ask for nominations for board chair for the period of December 2022 to the November of 2023.
I nominate John Riesland.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second for John Riesland. Are there any other nominations?
I'll make a motion for Dana Mantaviji.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so we have two nominations. Are there any other nominations? Okay, so we'll repeat this. So those that would be in support of Dana Mantaviji, would you please raise your hand? Or those in favor of John Riesland, raise your hand. Okay, so that was a 5-4 vote, and at this time, I would turn the meeting over to the new board chair, John Riesland.
I want to thank everybody for that, and for the 4 that didn't vote for me, I hope they're in your respect and support during the next year. We'll move on to election of the vice chairman. Is there any nominations?
Mr. Chair, I will make a motion for Dana Mantaviji for vice chair.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Are there any other nominations for vice chair?
I nominate Tina Chick.
Is there a second? I'll second it, just so we have a vote. Are there any other nominations? Okay, nominations are closed. All in favor of Dana Mantaviji, raise your right hand. All in favor of Tina Chick? Dana, congratulations, Dana. Election for board clerk. Are there any nominations for board clerk?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I nominate Billy Fitzwater.
I'll second.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, nominations will cease. All in favor of Billy Fitzwater for board clerk, raise your right hand. You're not going to vote for yourself? Okay. Congratulations, Billy. We'll move on to board treasurer. Are there any nominations for board treasurer?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to nominate Jason Jenkins as board treasurer.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Second.
Are there any other nominations for treasurer? Seeing none, all in favor of Jason for board treasurer, raise your right hand. Congratulations, Jason. We'll move on to the approval of the agenda. I have no changes at this point in time.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. They all here? At this point in time, I gotta wear this thing, don't I? Yeah, I just want this right now. We have a special recognition, and could I get them to please stand up, the family of Ron Mills? Mary. And Mary, if you can't stay standing, I understand, okay? I'm the one presenting this tonight. But Tom Wright did the legwork. He did the background and wrote the deal and actually sent it off to the WSBA and got the board of directors unanimous approval for this. And so it's with a great honor and privilege that I'm able to do this. I mean, I called him Ronnie all the time. I know his name was Ron, but he corrected me once in a while too on that. But I've known him most of my life. In fact, I don't know a time when I didn't know Ron. And here's just a little bit of history about him. He graduated from Newcastle High School in 1958. He also married Mary in 1958, October. He joined the U.S. Navy and was there for 3 years. He came home and worked in his family's truck and bus maintenance business. Ron and Mary had 2 boys, Craig and Chris, Squeak. Both of these boys graduated from Newcastle High School and the good businessmen in the community. Chris is currently running the family business and diesel truck repair and maintenance here in Newcastle. Craig lives in Iowa and travels the world as a lead programmer manager at USAA. In 1968, he started driving activity buses for District 1. I thought he started driving bus before then, but maybe not. Yeah, that's been a long, yeah. He drove for 30 years plus. He stopped driving bus when he got elected to the board. He helped with scores tables at all the games, away and at home. He was just active all the time. He knows all the kids that played and the folks who coached for years in the whole Northeast District. And I just want to say one of his things was in his sayings, quote unquote, "They're all my kids." That was one thing, unquote. That was one thing that I dearly admired about Ronnie, was that he always said that, and he looked to that right up there. What's this do for kids all the time? And that's the way he voted on this board. That's the way he acted in the community. And that was the things he benefited this district with. He was voted in on the board in 2000, served 22 years. He was board clerk since 2004. I don't know if that's a record or not, but that's a long time to be board clerk. He was also inducted into the Newcastle Hall of Fame in 2014. He earned quite a few honors from the Wyoming School Board Association. He went to a lot of meetings. I don't know if he ever missed a conference, state conference. One of the things he had to do was he had to take a picture and hang it on the wall out here. So everybody knew his mugshot, and I present that to you. He also he was awarded he was awarded more than 2. But the last one he was awarded that I'm aware of was the award of distinction, level number 2. I don't know if he made it to level 3 or not. Okay, level number 2, which I don't remember the number of points, and I should know, but it takes a lot of points to get there. It's over 200 points when you go to meetings and they're only worth 5 points. That's a lot of points and learning how to be a better school board member. And so I present those to you. Sorry. And last but not least, he was, excuse me, he was presented this award by the Wyoming School Board Association, by our district. We nominated him for this, and that's what the letter was, to become a Champion of Education Award. That is one of the highest honors that a school board member can receive. And I wish he was here tonight to do this. I really do. But I want to present this to the family. Thank you. Excuse me. Oh, we do? Okay. Let's take a 5-minute recess. I'll call the meeting back to order. Are there any other recognitions, I guess, at this point? Yes, Brad.
I do. I have two more recognitions, and one of them is the gift from the Crows that continues to give, and especially in the last week where we've had the Christmas concerts. So they continue to not only help us in the fine and performing arts, but also their gift to help children in need. And then our first beef donation, I would like to recognize Jay and Katrina Tisdale, and that beef will be picked up sometime in the near future. So I want to make sure we thank them.
Thank you. Any other recognitions? Yes, Mr. Tyler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just would recognize Leslie Morris and the Newcastle Middle School Student Council. They did their food drive once again this year, and it ended up being over 1,000 pounds of non-perishable food items that was donated to the local bread office. So kudos to those guys organizing it, and then of course all the families and students that donated to the cause. Thank you.
I don't usually get to do this in person, so I'm kind of excited. I'd like to recognize Mrs. Whipple and all the students for a great concert on Monday and on Tuesday. So thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I just like to recognize Mr. Von Eye. He had his We the People last night, and I think this is my second or third one, and it's just amazing for these young kids to hear their points of views and listen to their comments and all that on the government and those issues. So I just want to thank them again for doing that.
Thank you, Jason.
Chair, I got one.
Yes.
I'd like to recognize Larry Curtis for letting us borrow the trailer to take the cow to Torrington. And Andy Reese for taking it to Torrington. So Just want to recognize those two.
Thank you, Sean. Yes, Katrina.
Just a quick clarification. The beef is going to be donated by our ranch, which is called Triple T Enterprises. And that also includes Daniel Tisdale. So I just wanted to make sure that if there's anything in writing, when we turn in our paper, we'll put it as that, but it is from our ranch and that also includes Daniel. So.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other recognitions? Seeing none, we'll move on. Up to visitors' comments. Paul, you're on the witness stand.
Before there any other, I can wait till other people. We started our audit this year with Deb was a.
Gotta turn that on.
Is that on? On. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
First of all, Chairman, I'll try to be brief. Is how I usually do, okay, or?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so I'll try to keep it 10, 15 minutes at the most. We started our audit with Deb was the business manager. I had the pleasure tonight to meet Angie. We had exchanged some emails and phone calls and stuff like that, but we never had met in person. So tonight was a great night to do that since I was up here. And I appreciate all the help that she kind of gave after the fact on that. And but I'll just wanted to thank her and Deb and CeeLo and the rest of the office, the rest of the staff. Everybody's always very helpful and cooperative. Appreciate everything we do, impose a lot on them and request a lot of information. It gets to be a little intense for a couple days while we're here, and I want to thank them for that. Briefly, I think there's a lot of new board members here, so could I just briefly go through what we do when we audit? Okay, state of Wyoming requires that school districts have an annual audit. Also, as you receive over $750,000 in federal money each year, the federal government requires you have an audit, and we have specific procedures that we need to perform on your federal money when we do an audit. That is a large portion of our audit cost and time and work is working with the federal money even more, even though it's probably about maybe 20% of the total money that you spend. We spend about as much time meeting the federal audit requirements as we do the other parts of the audit. When we're engaged to do an audit, there's a couple things that go into that. First, we're auditing the underlying accounting records that are provided to us. We do that by sample. Of course, there's no way we could look at 100% of anything. So we're essentially auditing the procedures that you have in place in processing accounting data. So that's looking at the approval process, school board approval of supervisors, approval of time cards. We also, there's a procedure over receipts, activity receipts, school lunch receipts, of procedures over federal expenditures, receipt of federal money. So we're essentially doing an audit of and we sample and we're tracing items through from inception to completion of the transaction, just to make sure that there's a system of checks in there to make sure that the item is processed correctly. A lot of other things we do when we audit, we confirm the balances, we square up what the county treasurer says they paid you, we square up what the Department of Ed pays you with the records from them, just to make sure that everything's agreement. We confirm with the bank, make sure that what you say you have in the bank is what the bank says you have in the bank. Okay, just on that, just briefly. Then we take that a step further. We end up we put together for you a set of financial statements based upon that data that's provided to us. There's nothing in here that I make up. This all comes from the school district, either the state of Wyoming or the county treasurer for the property taxes. So we put this, and essentially we're creating this set of financial statement based on data that we've received from outside sources. I cannot put anything in here that I've been making a management decision on. Okay, So I have to be very careful about that. And so we're compiling this. Nothing that we put into these financial statements comes from outside source. Okay, then, and this will be what goes to the federal government, and this will be what goes to the state of Wyoming. And so that's pretty much what I go through when we're doing our audit. Just briefly, I know, you pay us quite a bit of money and you're getting this 40-page report. And I just want to kind of, if there's any questions on that, I just want to make sure that everybody's in, especially with new board members, that knows what's involved in putting this together. Any questions? Okay, if that being the case, then I'm going to turn to, I've color coded a lot of this, and I think you got it electronic and you got a hard copy both.
Right.
And I'm going to grab my water, if you don't mind. On the table of contents, there's really two parts to this. There's first, well, there's going to be more than two parts, but first, items in red on page that's labeled page 3 there. That's going to be our compliance. As part of our audit, we're required to test your compliance with laws and regulations. And those include federal regulations. That's where the federal audit component comes into that. And so we have two reports there. We have the first reports on page 47 and 48. That's the first item in red. And that's your compliance with laws and regulations that might be specific to like the state of Wyoming. Okay. Those are just, all your money has to comply with those regulations. And then we have a second report that we have issued there on pages 49 through 51. And that's going to be a report on compliance specifically to the federal money. They essentially say the same thing, but they apply to different things. One is everything, and one is specifically for the federal money. The second part of our audit is the financial statements, and that's on everything else, and that's on page 2 of the table of contents. And when we do financial statements, we have 3 levels of reporting. We have the budget information, which is in gray. That's how you budgeted and reported to you monthly. Okay, so this is each month you get a financial report. It includes what you originally budgeted, what you have left to budget, and so on. And it just compares what your budget was versus what you actually spent or received. And that's on 29 through 40. It's broken out by the fund, by the revenue streams, by the general fund, the federal fund, major maintenance, and so on. So each fund that's a major fund, the larger funds, we have to represent that. Then we have the next step up, that's items in blue. And we take that information, that budget information, and we tweak it a little bit. We add to it the taxes that are owed to you and the short-term bills that need to be paid. So we're taking the budget, which is completely cash in and cash out, and we're tweaking the blue for short-term amounts owed to you and short-term amounts that you owe out. And we're still keeping that based upon the revenue streams, the general fund. And so it's really focusing on what did we have to spend? What did we derive it from? Where did we get it to spend? How did we spend it? What did we have left to spend? So it's major focusing on restrictions, like you can't take the major maintenance money and spend it in the general fund. Okay, you can't take the rec money and pay a teacher. Okay, so that's focusing on the revenue streams and the short term, what came in, what went out, what do we have left? In the last set of financial statements are in the yellow. And we're going to conglomerate all the funds together and present the school district like it's a business. And we're going to incorporate all the resources of the school district, not just the cash, the ins and outs of the cash. We're going to take into account the buildings, buses, long-term debt, and everything, and present it in a profit and loss and a balance sheet that combines everything all together. Okay. And then we have to supplement that with the footnotes. The financial statements are on 16 through 28. We have some reporting required for the Wyoming retirement system. That's on 41 through 42. We have the smaller funds combining, like the rec fund and the BOCES fund. just where they're put together to not make the front of the financial statement so overwhelming. That's on 43 through 44. And then on 45 through 46, I'll cover this a little bit more. We have the schedule of expenditures of federal award. I referred to the need that you have to have an audit done for the federal government. You have spent over $750,000 of federal money. Once you hit that threshold, you have specific reporting requirements that the federal government needs to see that you have done. So they can accumulate the data of what's been spent of their money. Okay, and they have specific tests on that money that they want us to perform as auditors. And I'll cover that in a little bit. Our auditor's report is on page 1 through 4. That just says that we believe these financial statements, in our opinion, fairly represent the results of operation and the financial position of the district at June 30th of 2022. And throughout here now, I've highlighted some things that I wanted to just cover just briefly. There's only 4 or 5 of them, so I won't be much longer. And then I've highlighted, and then I put the prior year balances in there last year. So that's there in the column under the red prior year. So if you turn to page 9. At the bottom, so I've got them numbered based upon the page in the sequence there. So that they're on page 9. It's actually, it will end up being page 5 of the financial statements. There's some pages that aren't going to have page numbers in there. This is the full, everything together. All the assets, all the liabilities, building, long-term debt. The cash there actually increased overall by the district about $700,000. Went from $3,400,000 to 4.16, so it increased to about $800,000. Okay, $700,000. Then there at the bottom on page 9, I've highlighted the proportionate share of the net pension liability. The Wyoming retirement system, as I've talked in the past, is only about 84% funded. So there's an unfunded liability about $1.5 billion, I think was last year. That means they only have assets. If everybody cashed in and took their full benefits, they only have cash, they'd be $1.5 billion short. And on our accounting principles, we're required to reflect that as an unfunded liability. They're not going to ask you to make up that difference ever. I try to stress that, but the accounting principles put that liability back on the participating employers. So that's your share of that unfunded liability. That actually shored up some. But you have to remember that measurement date is at December 31st when the market was really high. Okay, since then, it's probably changed significantly again where the liabilities went back up. Next, on page 7. Now, this is the short term. This is the spendable approach. Excuse me, page 12. I had to turn it sideways. Page 12. This is the spending approach. So this is spendable resources. I just pointed out there the cash was up in the general fund about $800,000. And that increased your fund balance. That increased by about $850,000 of balance you carried over into the 22-23 fiscal year. So you added some to the bottom line last year on that. We have had the property tax issue with the ad valorem taxes. I don't know, it hasn't affected you, but now the energy companies are required to pay their production taxes monthly. It's causing a lot of headaches in other counties in the state that are more energy dependent. I mean, it's a good problem because they're getting all these taxes sooner. But so now on the energy taxes, they set, so if there's a production company, they estimate what they're supposed to pay for the energy taxes. They pay those amounts monthly. Get to the end of the year, then they're required to square up with the State Department of Revenue. If their production was more than what they expected, they owe the state of Wyoming that extra money. If their production was less, the state of Wyoming is going to owe that money back. That money that they pay comes through the Department of Revenue back to the county treasurer, and then the county treasurer disperses that back out to the school district. Makes it very hard to estimate on the budget process of what the collections are going to be. I don't, on that. It's been very fluctuating on that. Then on page 9, or excuse me, page 14. I just have highlighted last year's revenues there. So the local sources, that's going to be the 25 mil tax that you received. That was actually up about $400,000. The county sources, that's going to be the 6 mil tax that you receive for the property taxes. That increased also. But when your taxes increase, then your foundation payment goes down. Okay, so then your foundation payment from the state went down. So your revenues actually increased just slightly there, 13.6 million versus 13.4 million. And spending was pretty constant. The spending was down, but I think there were some large purchases last year. Maybe there's a bus, I think there's a couple bus purchases, things like that ran through last year under leases. So that's why the spending was down a little bit there. Last thing I wanted to cover. Go to page 56. And this is what we call the expenditure of federal awards. And this is how the federal government tracks your money. They track it by that CFDA number. Each program has a unique identifying number. That's how we pick our audit requirements. We've got a hierarchy. We try to rotate the programs through of what we pick to audit each year. And I just was visiting with Brandy. I haven't seen her over on Title I for a while, but it used to be we'd alternate through Title I special ed, 21st century, which is the ACES program. We'd alternate through, and each year or the school lunch, we'd go through and we just kind of rotate through for the larger federal programs. We rotate through every 4 years which ones we're picking. Well, the last 3 years we've been dealing with ESSER and COVID money. And so I highlighted, so then this year we picked the Educational Stabilization Fund, which is ESSER, which is, it's under 3 different programs. It's under CARES, it's under ARPA, and I don't remember what the other one is, but that is the COVID money that you receive. And I just highlighted that. That's a program we audited this year. So, I mean, and last year you spent almost 1.133 million in the COVID money. The other thing that's changed a lot too is that child nutrition money is going to change, because the last 2 years the federal government was paying for all the lunches. And now that's going to end. That ended for the 22-23 fiscal year. That's kind of what I wanted to cover. Everything went real well. We always have the finding of the small office size on that. I know that's a lot to digest. People tell me it's like drinking from a fire hose, but that's kind of what I wanted to cover with you tonight. And I'd be happy to take any questions. Or if you have a question, you get a Brad or Angie and they'll get a hold of me too.
Anybody have any questions for Paul? There'll be a test on it tomorrow, right? Well, thank you, Paul.
Thank you. Thanks for your time, everybody. Enjoyed working with everybody up here.
Are there any other visitors' comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to the action items, the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? I guess for the new board members, and I think Tom went through this one time at a board meeting, but this speeds up the meeting, that we don't have to go through every invoice. It's put here, The bills are sent to you prior, so you can, if you have any questions on them, you can go through them. The minutes are sent prior, all the other things. But if you do have any questions on them or any concerns about them, we can pull them out and set them aside and discuss them later. So if there's no discussion, what are you doing? You can't close the doors. Can't close the doors. Can't close the doors. You can close one, but
All the move down the hall.
yeah. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Old business. Policy JLCF. Opioid. I'll need to turn that one off. Sorry.
On third reading of the policy that was just previously mentioned, I would recommend to the board the approval of the final reading.
Yes.
I move to approve the administration of stock opiate antagonist and emergency administration of stock opiate antagonist policy.
One second.
Been moved and seconded to approve policy JLCF on third and final reading. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Jason.
With that, does that include the staff that are going to be authorized to administer that?
It's in the policy that that are trained.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We'll move up to new business. First quarter financial report.
I
Would
would
you work real
recommend to the
quick?
board the approval of the first quarter financial.
Well, we ought to get it though, shouldn't we? Or is she gonna go through it? Is Andy gonna go through it?
Maybe.
Are you on, Brad? Okay,
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
you're welcome.
So I prepared the first quarter financial report. I believe you all have a copy of it. It's for the period between July through September 30th of 2022, and it shows the cash on hand as of September 30th, 2022. There have been a few bill runs since then, so it doesn't reflect the balances of today. The revenue reflects 2 foundation payments from the state. And the local revenue consists of the 25 mil and the interest income. The county revenue consists of the 6 mil and the state revenue consists of the foundation payments. I'm a little nervous if you can't tell. If you look at the rest of the graphs, there's the revenue is broken down as a percent of the budget. We were at 81% of the budget, or 19% received today, and the balance is 81% as of September 30th. Our revenue versus expenditures, we are on track. Maintenance has some projects going on this year, so that'll eat up some of the money eventually. Food service, the general fund hasn't supplemented any money to the food service budget so far this year. I wanted to make a note that there is about $148,000 that was left from last year that is not reflected in these numbers, and I will do some more research on that. I'm not sure why that is, so I will do a little more research. The recreation district, the revenue is from the 1 mil. The expenditure includes a quarter of the pool utilities, the pool wages, and the community, for the community recreation director. The EWC BOCES is, the revenue is from the $500,000. The expenditure includes expenses for the concurrent and dual enrollment classes and a portion of Kim's wages. And these are paid at the end of the fiscal year. The major maintenance fund is, the revenue is from interest income and the state funded construction payments. Expenditures are based on the facilities plan and they're paid quarterly this year. Do you have any questions? I'm learning, so as I learn more about this, I'll be better at it. But if you have any questions, I can find answers for you and bring them back to you if needed.
Any questions? The test for this one is on Friday, so. Is there a motion to approve the first quarter financial report?
I'll move to approve.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the first quarter financial report. And for the new board members, I realize we're going pretty fast here, and so it's tough, but yeah. Okay. It's not so bad after a while. You'll get used to it. Yeah, maybe. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Now we'll move up to the financial audit report. Mr. Brad, what's your recommendation there?
So I would recommend that report ending June 30th of 2022.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the financial audit report for the year ending June 30th, 2022. 2022, excuse me. Yeah. Anyway, is there any questions? In discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to make a comment for the new folks that the separation of duties finding is because of the limited size of our district. It's there every single audit, and it's not considered a finding of great significance. It's just because we don't have two people doing every job.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We're up to the superintendent's contract. We approved this contract, just for a little history here, we approved this contract this time of year. Typically what we do, it's a 2-year contract. So if we do approve it, we just add another year on to Brad's contract. So it would be from 24, 25 would be the next year we would add on there. And that's pretty typical in the state of Wyoming. It's a 2-year contract. Also in the contract at this time, generally, we don't talk about wages. We wait until we see what our budget is a lot of times, or we go through that discussion salary wise later on, or later in the spring anyway. This is just to approve the contract. Is there a motion to approve the superintendent's contract?
Move to approve the superintendent's contract.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded to approve the superintendent's contract and add a year to 24 to 25. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. The next one is considering the yearly meeting dates and times. Typically, we have them on the second and last two Wednesdays, unless Brad has a conflict with the University of Wyoming board, and then we move them to a Tuesday sometimes, or sometimes different than that, but we do only have one meeting in okay. And the rest of the time, we just have two meetings. Yeah. And the meeting times are, right now, they've been set at 7 o'clock. I have a motion to approve that or disapprove that, or some. It's been moved and seconded to approve the meeting dates and times. Being the second and last Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. The committee appointments and that's typically the chairman decides that, but if you look at up here on the board, maybe sometime during the recess or whatever, or at the end of the meeting, if you want to be on a certain committee, let me know. And it's going to probably be the ones that are not on the board anymore. It'd be Tom Wright, it'd be Ron Mills, and oh, you have the list? Well, okay, but just let me know. And you can look at that. And if somebody wants to switch from one to the other, you can do that too. That way we can get the committees set up. Typically, we don't use committees. I mean, it's not something that we do very much. Once in a while we do. There are some committees on there that have been used in the past. I mean, we use transportation for one of them. We do have a lot of times budget hearing meetings, team meetings. And so sometimes the board members are on part of that. So there are some, but for the most part, we don't use the committees. Not that we can't. We just have not done that. So if you just let me know on that one and I'll get with you and one way or the other, let CeeLo know what you would like, and then I can get with CeeLo. That'd be the easiest. We do need a representative to the Eastern Wyoming College, BOCES. I don't know, was Marcia that? Or Marcia was that. So we do need that one. So is anybody interested in that? And I don't know a lot about it, so I can't. It's a meet. I don't know. Yes, Brad.
Mr. Chair, they still are in, after naming a new president, they still are in the option to either appear in person or via Zoom. So it's not like you always have to go to EWC, the facility itself, but I do believe, and most of the time it's once a month. There are some months there that they have in the past taken off, but with their new leadership, that could change as well, just so everyone knows. And that's primarily, so for the new board members, so that primarily is our focus with our concurrent and dual enrollment classes. And so there is a lot of, I guess, feedback that we hope is supported to try to keep those programs for students, but also probably the flexibility with staffing, because they do control the approval of the staff members that either can or cannot offer those classes. And not only are staffing patterns difficult, but getting staff that are certified, i.e., for example, a master's in math or whatever that would be. That's the one that's currently on my mind. So that's the example. And so it does take, there's a little bit of PR work that always needs to be done with that one, or at least in my opinion. And if Kim, Councilman, was here, I think she would agree.
Is anybody interested at this time in serving on that? We'll give you a little bit of time to think about it, but it's only one more meeting a month. It's not bad. The other one is the Northeast Wyoming BOCES, and Jason, are you still wanting to do that?
Mr. Chair, I'll be glad to continue that. I mean, unless somebody else would want to do that, I'll gladly step down as well, just to give somebody else an opportunity. But yes, I will do it again.
Okay. We'll just let you do it then unless somebody else wants to do it. Okay, you're on it, Jason.
Thank you.
Is anybody interested in the EWC BOCES? If so, if you do find yourself interested in it and want to have one more meeting a month, let CELO know, please. We'll move on to the Weston County School District #1 ARP ESSA Safe Return Plan.
Okay, so this is part of the requirement. And so to keep the district in compliance of the usage of the federal grant, I would recommend to you the revised ARP ESSA Safe to Return Plan as is in your packet.
Move to approve. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the Weston County School District #1 ARP ESSA Safe Return Plan. Is there any discussion? Yes, Dana.
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
I'm sorry. Anticipating I was going next, so
Oh, sorry.
that was when I dived into.
The only thing I saw that changed on here are dates. Is that correct? That's the only thing I noticed was a change.
I believe that is correct.
Is there any other discussions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We'll move up to classified resignation. Right?
I would recommend to the board the resignation of Veronica Hawk and permission to post the custodial position.
Is there a motion to approve?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the resignation of Veronica Hawk as a custodian and to post the position. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We're up to classified recommendation.
Mr. Chair, I would recommend to the board Crystal Walker as an elementary general paraprofessional.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve. I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the recommendation of Crystal Walker as an elementary general paraprofessional. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Certified recommendation.
Okay, so both new and veteran board members, this is sort of something entirely different than what we've been accustomed to. But as we all know, we're going through different times when it comes to staffing patterns. So the recommendation that I have for you for Travis Thomas for the high school math teacher is actually starting for the 23-24 school year. That way he can complete his task and honor his contract that he's in, and then be geared up to make the move for him and his family, and then become a member in our math program. So I would recommend that starting the 23-24 school year, and that is a first.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Travis Thomas as a high school math teacher for the year 23-24. Is there any discussion?
Well, we got to know this guy. We've been actually seeking a math teacher for several months. And the interview committee met 2 weeks ago, I believe, a week ago, two weeks ago. And so, yes, the committee got to meet him, and he got to introduce himself as well. And he understands a little bit about Newcastle, because part of the family actually grew up in a ranching farming community of nearby Dewey. I don't think it's any surprise, but he is currently under contract, and that's just how far out I think we're going to probably have to start to be when we look at staffing patterns and the complexity that goes along with those issues in today's employment world.
Any other questions? Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We'll move on up to administrators, directors, and superintendent and board reports. I'll just go around the room. Craig, do you have anything? Would you like to go first? Okay. We'll just skip you. Angie, you got anything further? Okay. Bryce, do you have anything?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just congratulations to the new board members. Welcome aboard the team. Appreciate you stepping forward and doing that. I know it's an easy task to put your name out there and be judged in front of your peers and your whole community. So thank you for doing that. Thank you again for accepting the recommendation from Mr. LaCroix for the high school math position. I think we have a great opportunity with Mr. Thomas in front of us. And so even though it's a little bit delayed, I'm excited for that opportunity to work with him and see the difference that he can make with our kids. Other than that, just starting to get prepped for second semester and rolling over to that second semester of the school year. And so never a dull moment at the high school.
Thank you. Any questions for Bryce? Thank you, Bryce.
Thank you.
Brandy, would you like to go next?
Thank you. And yes, I would echo Bryce in saying welcome to the new members. Just a few things. We are wrapping up this semester, and as always, this time of year is super busy at the elementary school. We have our Operation Santa going. Next Tuesday, our K2 kiddos can have a guest come for moms, or not moms, but muffins in the morning. They can just bring a guest. And then our carolers are going to be there singing as well, and they'll be going around town. So maybe you'll see them at some businesses or at the manor. And then the big guy is coming from the North Pole on the 21st, and that's always a big deal. But I also wanted to give you a heads up on the 14th, a team from Box Elder is coming to visit our school and see what we do with our Walk to Learn and some of our literacy programs. So I think that speaks highly to what we have going on, that they want to check out what we're doing and learn from us. So that's all I have, unless you have questions.
Any questions for Brandy? Thank you, Brandy. Karen?
Sure. Thank you. I don't have a lot. We're just kind of gearing up. December seems to be our second rush of IEPs for the year. So we're just getting those done before Christmas break. And then we're gearing up for our Special Olympics team to start practicing skiing after break. So that's always an exciting time in the department. But that's all I have for you guys tonight.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Yep.
Son, do you want to go next?
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Chair. And just to echo, yeah, welcome everybody. It's going to be a pleasure to work with everyone. Just gearing up to plan for second semester, I guess, is kind of what's on the agenda. So some staff development days coming up. We've got some trainings to reschedule. Testing, the winter testing is coming up. So we'll be doing those and just kind of starting the year running, doing all of those things. I guess the only other thing would be that Zach Beam and I will be attending the Math and Science State Board of Education audit meetings next week in Casper. So he will be participating in the science one. I'll be participating, I'm assuming, in the math one is what they'll put me on. And so I will know more about what that process looks like and the direction that the state board is kind of going with that. So the full intent of those meetings. So especially for all the new board members, the State Board of Education probably about a month ago passed a pretty aggressive resolution to heavily audit all 10 content area standards with the goal in mind to really look at the load that it has put on districts as far as assessment and local common assessments, district accountability, all of that sort of thing. And so that's the task that will be set in front of the teams. State Board of Education is leading that. So I think WDE is helping facilitate those, but it's all a very fast moving new game for everyone. So I feel like a bunch of things are moving parts as they get the plane flying. So I'll just keep you updated on that. So that's all I have for you, unless you have questions for me.
Yes.
Sonia, for that, so then what, can you kind of fill us in on kind of what their end game is on that, as far as when they're assessing all 10 of those and what they gained or hope to gain?
That's the question of the day. It really is. What is the goal? I mean, really the goal is to overall look at the standards and say, I think what the legislators and the state board has said is that they've heard over and over again, there's too many standards. So just the quantity and the number of standards is too many when you look across all 10 content areas K-12. And so it really places a pretty heavy load on districts, especially in the assessment system. And so I think part of my questions that I hope are kind of answered next week, or at least got a head start, will be, is the load concern the same, equal K-12? Or are there subgroups of, is K-5 different than secondary, for example? I don't know that answer. I don't know where that's going to turn out. Is all 10 content areas equal in weight of consideration? For example, would math be equal weight of foreign language or world language? I don't know where that will all fall out, you know? And so as content committees that work on the standards go through the process of adopting new standards, I think this will be the starting process of really looking at and taking a very distinct look at what is the load. I think one driving force is probably our state testing system. So we are federally required to test math, reading in 3rd through 10th grade every single year, and then science in grade 4, 8, and 10. That's a federal mandate because we accept federal monies. So we can't really get out of that. What that includes is we have to test the depth and breadth of our standards on that test. So if our standards get reduced, then the focus of the test, the number of standards that are tested, also would get reduced. So I think part of the reasoning is to help align those things, because right now, what our priority standards are in the state compared to what's on the test blueprint do not necessarily align because they're two different purposes. So I think part of that is trying to align those purposes, and to really give that focus and clarity and equity across the state of what truly are the most important things, skills and knowledge to make sure we give students opportunities for, and not only opportunities to be exposed to, but to master. So I don't know what that will look like, Jason. But I guess we'll find out.
Jason?
And Brad, go ahead, stop. I'm just curious with,
Because we've been saying that for years, you know, the basket of goods, and keep adding and adding and adding. And then all of a sudden we have this lawsuit on funding, and now we're wanting to look at said standards now. And so again, if that's getting too political, I'm okay with that. It just seems like.
If I could, just real quick.
I think the toughest part is you're trying to predict a very uncertain pattern. And so time will expose it, but I think from the get-go, everyone realized that we were trying to do too much. Now, the crazy part to all this is there are some people that say, well, K2, you're just going to do math and reading and everything else goes out the door because those standards aren't important. I don't know if I believe in that, but I guess, again, time will tell. But I do know that when you're really looking at, here's the confusion. So if you think about it, we just spent a ton of money on the profile of a graduate. And a lot of the profile of the graduate, as I look at it, is very, very difficult to measure. And I don't believe it ever really reflects anything to do with state testing, which is a big piece of the accountability. And then on the other side, you have this whole moving piece with where is the accountability going to go, even way back from No Child Left Behind. So I would say that it's very important for local boards to try to keep as much local control as you can, knowing that what the definition of lessening means. Does that mean that you get to make that decision, or does that mean legislatively they're going to make that decision? State board's going to make that decision. And again, how's that? I mean, you got to start lining these dots up because, man, we really do have some disconnects in this state. So I'm hoping the new state soup, when they come on, maybe they can give us a little bit more guidance with that. As we have new boards, there's new legislators. So I think there'll be some different conversations come from that as well. And so time will tell. It's just going to be interesting, but I hope that we just don't, I hope we don't look back on this period of time in education as a dark time for kids. And it does have that capability if we're not paying attention. So it does put a little bit more emphasis on the direction of a school board. Welcome.
Thank you. I just got a question.
Go ahead, Sean.
So I might get a little political here, but anyway, I just need to know, does the federal government run us that much? I mean, you talk about federal, I mean, so they run us so much, so they put standards on us. They don't put standards on. I'm just saying that they're saying we got to meet this and we got to meet that. I just need to understand kind of what this is. So maybe you can clear it up for me.
I'll give it a shot. So because we do have, so our Title I and special education, Title II, the 21st Century Grant, all of those are federal award monies that we do accept. And so part of accepting that is the testing accountability of whatever the standards are. So as a state, The federal government does not have anything to do with setting those standards. That is a state job. So the process in the state of Wyoming has been that the State Board of Education is in charge of approving standards, like the set of standards for every content area that is in our statutes. The Wyoming Department of Education is in charge of facilitating committees to review those set standards, which one set of standards is in play for 9 years, is what's in statute right now. And so what they'll do is they'll get together like a committee of roughly 40 people from around the state. So it's teachers, it's parents, there's some community members, there's some college level members, there's some administrators on those teams, and they take a pretty deep look into each set. So for example, one that's being looked at right now that isn't finalized is PE. So there's a committee around the state that they've brought all sorts of people together. They look at small district, big districts, regional representation around the state, all of those different criteria. And that committee of 40 people really look deeply into what do we want our standards to look like? Are we happy with what they are now? What else is being done? How can we make them better? What are we happy with? And the committee has the full reins of making that just as is. That set of standards that they develop will go out for public comment. Once they collect public comment, then it comes back to the committee and they get to rework and make changes if need be to address any of the comments or concerns on there. And then it goes back to, I believe, there's 2 sets of public comments. I think it goes back to the public comments to get one more set of public comments before it's finalized. And then it goes to the State Board of Education and they have to approve it before it goes to the governor's desk. And then he has to approve it. And so it's quite an extensive process with a lot of input, I guess, or opportunity for input around the state. It usually takes about 18 months for that to happen, to get one set in. And so, and that's for one content area. So they just rotate, and cycle through all the different 10 content areas or whatever is in statute. And so it's definitely state control of what those standards are. And then as a district, then we get to choose we have state standards, so we have to comply with state standards. We get to choose which ones are emphasized a little more, a little less. We get to choose what resources we use, what strategies we use, how to teach those skills in content areas, and knowledge base to the students. That is definitely our choice. And if we want to add anything to it, or if we think, gosh, no, this is really important, but it doesn't show up on those standards, then we're going to include it. And so we do have, there is a lot, Wyoming is a lot of local control. And so, so that's, I feel like, a benefit to us right now.
Thank you. Yes, Dana.
I would just add the state board did take public comment on each set of standards too.
Okay. Any other questions for Sonia? Non-political? Thank you, Sonia. Tyler?
Talk some more about it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome aboard, everybody. Don't have much, same as everything they said, testing and shuffling some things and getting ready for second semester. Band and choir concerts on Monday and Tuesday at 7 if you guys want to come watch some music. Otherwise, that's about it at the middle school, unless you guys had any questions.
Any questions for Tyler? Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you.
No directors or anything up there? Okay. Brad, you're up.
Mr. Chair, I have an important date for you. I believe January 3rd is going to be the legislative dinner at Douglas Country Club. And so for the new board members, this is an opportunity for an invite not only to you, but to our local legislators to prep them for the upcoming legislative session. Generally speaking, it's been pretty well attended. I don't know if there's anything really new or earth shaking that ever comes out of there. But I do think it's an opportunity to start networking. So at least you can put a face to a name, maybe a phone number to a name. So when they do run into a topic, they have some outreach. And so they can talk to the people in the trenches instead of, sitting there in Cheyenne and trying to just simply answer the thousands of emails that they receive on different topics. So I think that one's pretty important. And I'm pretty January 3rd, I believe, is the set date. I'm 90% sure of that. The other there were two other dates that they were looking at. One was the 5th and one was the 6th. And I believe the session starts on the 10th. So if you could, usually we try to take a Suburban or two down so we can network as well. I apologize for missing the state convention. I much would have rather been there than where I was, but knowing that I wasn't there, I do have a topic. It's a follow-up. So many of you that did attend the state conference, one of the breakout sessions was My Life is Worth Living. It's an online program to assist parents. We did get to preview a short snippet of the program and the offering. We looked at maybe some different costs that would be occurred to that, but we really haven't broken it down with enough feedback, and absolutely no feedback at this time from parents. So anyway, we'll continue to work with our leadership team, the counselors, and then probably send it out just to see if people want to review, to see if it is a resource that would be needed. Because truly it does come with a cost, and you can't put a cost on a child's life. I'm not ever going to argue that. But I really would hate to spend that money on a resource that no one would ever want to use. So I will send you, or actually CELA will send you sort of a follow-up from the Cook Center on that one. Actually, yes, everyone is getting geared up for the semester, and actually, I'm sort of trying to figure out where we're going to be for next year. So, in looking at trying to get some staffing patterns, trying to take a guess with where we think we might be with budgets, and then I'm in the middle of the evaluation process with the building principals. So, with that. I would say Merry Christmas to those of you that I won't get to see before then. And no, Santa Claus did not prepare the gifts. And if she did, I must have left them behind. So I'll figure out a way to do that. But I am not sharing the chocolate crack, just so you all know.
Okay.
With that, I think I'm done, Mr. Chair.
Any questions for Brad? Okay. Are there any board reports? Dan?
Mr. Chairman, WEPT had a Zoom meeting a week or so after the annual conference, and basically usage is still up. We thought that would start going down as the post-COVID. After COVID, a lot of people took care of medical things that they had postponed, and so I would expect an increase this year, possibly more substantial, but I don't know for sure. But that's just something to keep in mind. And we're getting lots of great reviews from Teladoc, so I would really encourage staff to try it if you think it would be appropriate. It saves you time and money, and people seem really pleased with it. So go Teladoc.
Thank you, Dana.
Oh, and I'm sorry. Our next meeting is February 15th. So we'll be in Cheyenne during the legislature, and hopefully derail any efforts to make school districts join the state employee and officials help them once again.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other board reports? Jason?
Yes, Mr. Chair. BOCES, the delegation voted to allow BOCES to be, and I should have came more prepared on that. There's basically BOCES can now apply for certain monies that were only afforded to school districts. So they did vote to allow them to now be able to get some of those monies. I was actually shocked at a lot of the districts that did not want to do that. BOCES is a good program if you need it. What the districts send BOCES and then BOCES not being allowed to receive those monies is astonishing to me, but nonetheless, it was voted for and it passed. So they'll be, like I said, be afforded some different monies now.
Any questions for Jason? Thank you, Jason. Yes.
Was that was the result of a statutory change, wasn't it, that allowed them to decide if they wanted to go for certain things that they hadn't been eligible for before?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Any other board reports? Seeing none. Any future agenda items? I know that we talked about a retreat, probably in January or February or whenever people are freed up after the holiday season. I guess we can discuss that more in January if you'd like to do that, or now. I mean, I don't care. And what you would like to see in a retreat. And for the new board members, what that is, basically we have it's not a meeting per se. It's where we sit down and discuss issues that we want to see changed, or issues that are burning in our hearts, or just programs that we want to learn more about. We don't make any decisions there. We don't vote on anything there. It's more just an open discussion. We typically do that off-site of this anyway. And a lot of times we'll do it in the afternoon. We've done them in the evenings, and in the past, and I'm going way back, but we've done it on a whole Sunday, and taken that much time if we have that many issues to talk about. I'm not saying that we need to do that. We invite the administrators to come in and maybe talk about things that are programs or something that they would like to see different, or what's working well in their schools, that sort of thing. The public is invited if they want to come along. So that's what our retreats are about. It's not something we're trying to hide from anybody. We're just out there trying to make us a better board and a better school district. Yes, Jason.
Would it be appropriate, since I know Sean had taken that course down in Casper, would it be appropriate to have like Ron come up or something and give a little bit on the board for the new members?
We can do that. There's two more board member workshops, is there not? I think there's one.
There's one in Casper.
One in Riverton and one in Casper, I believe. So let's get through January, and then if you guys can't make that, I also threw out the invitation. I'm not going to give you a new member board workshop, but I would go through how we derive our agendas, what we generally put on them. Talk a little, maybe if you have questions on executive sessions, on on what we do within our agendas, budgets, whatever, and how we do that. It'd be nice to go through leadership governance again, but I don't know if they do that quite. They do? It's a good program, and I believe in it, but did you go through it? So there's been two, you went through it? There's been 4 of us that went through this, and so we have 5 members. Did you go through it, Jason? So there's 5 of us that have not, and it really helps us as a board determine how we're going to operate, basically. And it's mostly about boards. It's about how we're going to work with each other within this group, and what we're going to do, what responsibilities we give to the superintendent, what responsibilities we take on. It's it's devised, it's drawn up by the board. It's not just a book that somebody hands you and says, this is what's going to happen. We determine what we want to do, or how we want to do it, or if we want to do it. So I think that program, I really enjoyed it, but it takes to go through the whole program. I think it took three full days last time, or maybe it was a week. It's a long program. It's intensive. You don't do it all in 1 week. I mean, you do it, but that might be something we'd want to talk about at the retreat. But anyway, those are the sort of things I would sit down with, and any board member can come to that if they would like to, and add to the conversation, just to help the new board members out. I don't have a problem. That's great, because there's a lot to digest and a lot to understand. And not that I have all the answers, because I don't, but anyway, I just throw that out. So be thinking about a retreat. Yes, Dana.
Mr. Chairman, a couple of things I'd like to see us talk about in the future is board self-evaluation. We haven't done that for quite a while, and we probably need to, or I think we need to. I also am aware that the WSBA has a tool they're working with on that as well. So maybe we could combine the two into one trip with them.
Okay.
And then I'd also like to maybe have one of them visit with us, even if it was on Zoom, about their new district climate evaluation too, at some point in the future. No giant rush, but thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Billy.
I'm not sure if this falls under future agenda items or discussion items, but I know Brad said at the last meeting, we need to look at a 4-day calendar, and I've kind of talked to him a little bit. And about the structure, I guess. Do we need to outline what the structure would be for all the staff, or?
Go ahead, Brad.
So what we have done is the leadership team has listened to the staff basically about their concerns with the calendar and in general. As you all know, or if you don't know, I'll let the new board members know, but the issue is the superintendent was the one that was squashing the concept of the 4-day week. And I tried to let people know that if they wanted to work on something and present it to their groups, because, a lot of times a 4-day week is going to affect the elementary school different than the high school versus the middle school. And so right now we're sort of taking their input, looking at that, trying to figure out, number one, what is best for our students in our learning environment. Whether that be a 4-day week or a modified calendar or whatever. And then also, I think the biggest issue also out there is there a way to look at some time management to cut down the stress levels of our teachers. So we're still in the process of, I guess, collecting that. Now, to answer just the 4-day week questions, there's a lot of different ways school districts have gone about and the reasons that they use to go to the 4-day week. And so we will listen to those as well. There's everything from, half of the Fridays are contract days for staff, so they come in and work. Some are not. Some are half-day Fridays of students, half days for staff to work. Several years ago, and I can't remember the exact date, but we had sort of a modified Friday look as well. The other thing that we have to keep in mind is not only our learning environment, but is our student care when we're not in session as well. So, where do the students go, and we got to be careful with the burden that we put on our parents. I know we're not known as a daycare center, but we do have to be cognitive of what's going on in our environment locally, and are we able to meet some of those needs? So all kinds of different conversations, looking at calendars. We hope to have some more feedback on a draft, and then we'll include you in that conversation. And then, of course, after we get the staff input, we'll seek both parents and students as well. So,
Billy, would that be a topic for our retreat? Would you?
The only thing is a calendar is really one of those things. There's certain people in the room really chomping at a bit that the time is really important because they need to make some decisions quickly about, staff development, parents that are in different kinds of work, what days are going to work for them for vacations. So years and years ago, you actually had a practice that you could predict the calendar for the next 20 years because we had simple rules that we applied. Those don't work very well. And so now we try to listen to where everyone's at and try to move forward. But I think one of the things that we all need to be aware of with 2 schools in school improvement, not the best test scores in the state, whatever we do, I hope can reflect our opportunities to improve student learning as well. So we'll balance that. And we'll have some drafts out to you. But I did not put any thing out there as far as what the district expectation was going to be with the 4-day week or not. And so with that, we left it open so it wasn't going to be directed by the superintendent.
That kind of cleared up my question. The question that I had, and I told you about it, was they weren't sure how to vote on it if they didn't know what a Friday looked like for them until they actually knew what it looked like for them or the students or whatever. They didn't know. I guess there was a lot of questions.
Sure, and you're right. There were a lot of questions because I think one of the groups that really looked at the 4-day week, there was absolutely nothing at all on Fridays that was required. Then there was another group, I think that was maybe half Fridays were going to be contract days. And so I think anything in between there. High activities are something that we've always looked at. Of course, with the 4-day week, you're really going to have to look at what it does for your activity schedule as well. And all those things sort of go hand in hand. So the building principals have met with their staff and they've taken that input. And the other thing we have to do is if we do ask for an alternative calendar, we do have to have 2 public hearings on that for it to go to the Department of Ed for an alternative calendar. I answered your question because there really weren't a clear that was a political way of answering. I really don't know. But I mean, truly, it depends on the group and how they see the 4-day week and how it better meets student needs and staff needs.
And I think that's where it's clear as mud, is they didn't know exactly how a 4-day week would affect them and students, if it was gonna be. Because I know.
Because I know some, like you said, some districts do it where, everybody's done by noon, the kids can come in for extra credit, or if they need help for a couple hours. Some of them have no students come in, so I didn't know, like I said, I mean, it's what's best for whatever the students in the district, but they were kind of wondering because, like I said, there was no set in stone. It was just what's your thoughts on a 4-day calendar? Well, don't really have thoughts if we don't know what it looks like.
Right. And again, trying to take that input, but the first earmark that everyone has to watch. So traditionally, the district has always had graduation on the Sunday before Memorial Day. And the reason that we don't go on Memorial Day is it is really tough on families that have to travel and cost. Did it one year, promised that I would never do that again. That was almost as unpopular as trying to move kindergarten to Osage. So with that in mind, you really have to be careful on the backside. If you go over 10 days, you lose funding as a district. So that's a financial thing you have to watch. So then after that, then you get into, for example, everybody wants to make sure we're in school on Veterans Day, because without the kids in school, we don't have a Veterans Day program, pretty important to our community. So you put things like that. We would like 2 weeks off at Christmas. So if you take 2 total weeks off at Christmas, and you got to be back on the back end of May, you got to really start looking at your different days. So now if you want a spring break, now it really starts pushing things forward. And if you are into the bike rally, no one wants to start school during the bike rally, and it isn't safe because it's not a good time to run buses. So I'll talk from the transportation side. So you start putting all that stuff together and you're looking at 175 student days, 185 contract days. It gets a little dicey pretty quick. So again, what we'll do is we'll look at that and let staff know that, truly, if you want the 2 full weeks at Christmas and you want to be off the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, that takes some different compromises out of your calendar. And if you've noticed, everything I just mentioned probably doesn't have a darn thing to do with student learning. And so eventually you have to interject opportunities. So one of the things that was mentioned last week, and I'll just repeat it. So if you do a 4-day week, what does it do to the block scheduling at the high school, knowing that your B day would be a Thursday? The next time you see your B day group is going to be, i.e. Tuesday, unless you modify that. Remember, we share staff, so you got to be careful. And then the other question that come up is, if you do that, what does it do to your concurrent and your dual credit? Now, some parents would say, it's a high school, walk away from the college atmosphere and just be done. And we can't. We've spent a lot of time building the program, not for everybody, but for those students. And for those students that take advantage of it, it's quite a scholarship program. So you have to keep all of those moving pieces. And I could go on and on for calendars. I'm a 12-month employee, and I would be the last person that would be wanting to tell you how to do a calendar, because it does not affect me. I can't get what I need done in 5. I can't imagine and really think we're going to shut the district office down on Friday. And here's the other thing I'll tell you right up front. Medical appointments, we can encourage everyone to go on Friday. But last time I checked, you go when you have an opportunity, or you're not going to be there till March, April, or May. So again, we'll try to balance all that. We'll take the input. And I think a calendar is like everything. Some of the group will be happy and some won't.
Any other discussion items or future agenda items?
Mr. Chair, I got one more.
Okay.
This is for Brad. About 2 months ago, you brought up the fentanyl was getting high. I just wanted to know if that was nation or statewide.
So. Nationwide is really what drove the initial conversation. And then from the nation was whether the district was going to be prepared when in fact it does arrive. Now, to my knowledge, and I'm not a cop, although we do have a new chief of police that will be joining us, and we're pretty happy about that. But I don't know of any fentanyl that has affected our student body. But I think we're all aware that addiction issues in general have always been a struggle. And I don't think it's any different now than it ever has been. And then if I can, Mr. Chair, just real quick, that is one of my biggest concerns over the years is with the 4-day week is we do know how difficult home life is for so many. And we do know that addiction is an issue for many of our families and our young people, and another day without supervision always has concerned me. And I know that I'm not a daycare provider, as it's been pointed out to me in the past.
Anything else? Seeing none, I'll adjourn the meeting.
We don't have to swear in anybody to the new one, correct? Because they've been sworn in. So I believe at this time, I can knock on the table and then I can ask at this time, we will accept nominations for the rec board chair for the period of December 2022 through November 2023.
I nominate Jason Jenkins.
Have a nomination that's been seconded for Jason Jenkins. Are there any other nominations? Once. Okay, so I believe at this time I get to use this line. So it has been moved and nominated, and we have ceased the nomination ballot, and we cast a unanimous ballot for Jason Jenkins as a rec board chair. Is that correct? Did I do that right? Well, good, because you know who's next. Congratulations, Mr. Chair. It's yours.
Okay, we have the election for the rec board vice chair. I'll open it up.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Dan.
I'll nominate Billy Fitzwater.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion on the floor properly seconded for Billy Fitzwater for vice chair of the rec board. Any further comments? Nominations, I'm sorry, thank you. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Billy is our vice chair.
What is that name?
Okay, we have the rec board clerk. I'll open up the floor for,
Mr. Chair,
go ahead.
I'd like to nominate Joe Perrell.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor, properly seconded. Is there any other nominations for clerk? Seeing none, those in favor of Joe, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Joe is the clerk. We have, yeah, we have one for the board treasurer. I'll open that up.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
I would move that. Paul Bell.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion on the floor, properly seconded for Paul Bow. Do we have any other nominations? Okay, seeing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. All right, congratulations, Paul. We're gonna move on to action item, consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor, properly seconded to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. And I don't see anything for old business. I got that down. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I didn't.
It's okay.
New business, Teresa.
So, just a couple things. We're full in athletics, but I think it's been going pretty smoothly. I haven't had much complaints. And this weekend is the Christmas cantata. So they're actually over there right now. I have to go lock up. And then they practice all day Saturday. And then we have the community concert Sunday. So that's this weekend. And I got an email from the company that I ordered the ramp from, and it's due the end of the month. So I told Greg to let me know when it gets delivered, and then I'll let you guys all know when we get it.
Perfect. Thank
Yep.
you.
And welcome all you new guys, and I look forward to working with you. Does anybody have any questions for me?
And for those that don't know, this is Teresa. She runs the rec. Yeah. Thank you, our director.
I try to calm the storms. Yeah. Yeah, and we had a kerfuffle in the calendar a while back. Diana's school calendar wasn't talking to mine, so it was a little crazy, but I think we got it taken care of. So. And then I did want to do kudos. So Don, Botkin, and Casey, and my employees have been great that I've hired, but I had these mirrors that didn't get hung up. And so anyway, he does a lot of on the side construction work, and he put some nice new mirrors in the gym, and he's working on more and getting rid of the broken mirrors. And so they look really good. And he did that on his own time. So, yep. And I'm just the old equipment that we are not going to be able to get parts for. I'm just going to replace them. I'm trying to find like kind of a unified machine for maybe 4 to keep the costs down and space. But so I'm just kind of working on that. This next year is kind of my thing. Okay.
Anything else, Teresa?
Not right now. Just
Okay.
trying to juggle those schedules. It's busy, but it's good.
Any discussion items we need to talk about? Anybody have anything? If not, seeing none, I adjourn the meeting.